mixer in 5, 4, 3.
I didn't hear it. Y'all, listen. If there is one thing I've learned, adversity does not build character. Adversity reveals character. I'm Barbie Bassett, and I invite you to join me and my friends, Therese, Apel, and Traci Lee, as we peel back those adversity layers to see what else is revealed. Hey, everybody. Don't you love that groovy music?
So fun. Yeah.
Groovy.
I could barely hear it, but it was the greatest way to start this off.
Oh, well, after the podcast is over with, I will let y'all hear exactly what that introduction was all about. So welcome to, y'all listen here.
I love that. It's so perfect for Barbie.
It
you
is.
know?
Well,
I feel like I'm getting in trouble, though.
It's perfect for us.
Yes.
Because if you think about just those three words, y'all listen here. There are some times when you say, y'all listen here. And then there are other times when you're like, y'all listen here. Mm-hmm. So it's got so many different meanings based upon how you say it. Mm-hmm. And how you share it. And so when we started talking about possibly doing this, we tried to come up with, I don't know, a catchy little title.
Yeah.
And we started thinking through it, and it just kind of stuck. So y'all listen here. We've got some stuff to talk about. I am here with my good friends, Traci Lee.
Hello.
Of U.S. Country 96.3.
Yes.
And then, of course, Therese Apel, who's with Dark Horse Press. She's here. Wave.
I'm here.
So, yeah.
Hello. Hello.
So we got Traci and Therese,
Yeah.
the two T's.
They were TT.
Y'all are
I
TT.
went there. Sorry.
Y'all are the TT, and I'm the B. But anyway, we.
That's what I hear.
Oh, gosh.
I was going to stay away from that one, but we might as well jump in on it.
now. Well, now.
So this will probably be the last time I'm asked to join.
No. I promise. It'll be fun. And then we've got our man, our Daniel in the Lion's Den.
Yes.
Daniel.
We love Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yes.
Daniel
Even gave us Diet Coke.
He did. Daniel
you know,
Anderson here with Audio Alchemy Productions. We are in the Lion's Den here with Daniel. And Daniel is our producer. And let us just go ahead and give a shout out to Daniel because Daniel is an incredible producer. And so if you are interested in having your own podcast or you know someone who you think would be awesome to have a podcast, maybe it's just a thought that you've had in your mind, give Daniel a shout out because Daniel will be the guy and you will never have to do anything again because Daniel just takes control of it all and you're just here to talk and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, and he made us look good. I mean,
Yeah.
you two are TV people. I'm a radio person. We usually don't get on camera. So, well.
But you're a TV person today.
Yes, I am.
And that's why this is so fun. But Daniel has been great with the lighting. And, of course, he's got such incredible audio production here. So he is your guy, okay? So Audio Alchemy Productions. And we're actually doing this live right now from Madison, Mississippi. So welcome to all of those who are just joining us. I thought it would be good for us to start out this, y'all listen here, to talk about how this started.
Yeah.
So it's been about a year and a half ago now. I went through a very public situation.
We'll call it the situation.
The situation. And so much I could say about that. And one day I will. But today's not that day. But I have known Traci for many years. We're actually really good friends with Traci's first cousins because, in Mississippi, I mean, you know everybody. And I've known Therese because, Therese, you and I worked at a television station together.
Yes.
We were not there at the same time, so our ships did not sail past each other.
Right, but we knew each other from some other things. And I think just the journalism and media circles are so small in the metro area. You know, there's the new kids that come and go, but the ones of us that have been here for any amount of time, it's just, you just know each other,
Yeah.
you know.
So true. And it was literally within hours, maybe a day or two, when my very public situation happened that Therese reached out to me. And I'm going to let you take it from there, Therese.
So it happened that my friend, well, our friend, Morgan Howard, she works for me. And I was in the middle of something else, and she sent a text to our group chat with Dark Horse, and she said, y'all, Barbie just got fired. And I was like, what? What's going on? You know, so anyway, I reached out to you because part of it, it's like when you work in this business, it's crazy because you're told to build a brand so that you will stick. Mm-hmm. You're taught to ingratiate yourself by doing all these things and posting all these things and being all these things so that you will have some staying power. And Barbie was the one that I thought would never be at all influenced by any of the trends. You know, she was a mainstay. And I just thought of the person that I knew. And I told somebody, right after it happened, I said, I don't think Barbie and I have held a full 45 minutes of conversation in the time we've known each other, but I know who she is. And that's not what I would have ever expected, the things that were being said. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to you because it was like my heart was broken for you. And there was I can't lie, there was a little bit of like, if it can happen to her, it can happen to any of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I thought the same thing.
I mean, canceling is a real thing now, but to me, it was so like, I know your heart, and I know that you are absolutely, my sister in Christ, and I could not imagine what you were going through because it was so public, and everything we do has to be so public ready. Like you have to think about, in our businesses, you have to think about everything you're saying. You have to think about everything you do, almost everything you wear, where you go with no makeup, that kind of thing. And for this to all be unfolding just right there, it felt like watching Shark Week. Yeah. And the difference is that I love the fish that it's happening to or whatever. Yeah. So that was why I reached out to you, because I had your number from something. And I was like, she needs to hear from somebody that's 100% on her team. And she knows it because we have similarities in our careers, So to me, it was just a no-brainer that and then I don't remember if I talked to you, Traci, or if I just said, hey, I invited Barbie Bassett to start coming to lunches with us, because we were doing those lunches at that time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how that happened either, but I was never opposed because I adore you. I always have. And, it was a good thing. It was a good thing to make our duo a trio. Yeah. And I have never been sad about that at all. And I remember the first time that we got together, you could see on your face what I think we felt, and you were so broken. And I remember you reaching out and just grabbing my hand and just, without saying a word, you said so much. And my heart broke with yours, because I remember thinking when all this went down, I'm like, my gosh, how many years? And it's gone so fast. Yeah. And it just killed, because Therese is right. We spend our lives pouring into this image of who we are and trying to be true to who we are at the same time. And one thing gets taken out of context or blown up because somebody reads it the wrong way. And all of those years, it's done that fast.
And you, Traci, working on radio, I mean, a lot of yours is live as well.
Yeah, it is. I always say our owner bought additional liability insurance when I moved to the morning show, because you never know what's going to come out. I bring shame to my mom daily, but
That's
it is because you don't mean it, and you hope that people know your heart when you say something or when you respond genuinely and authentically. And boy, if they're having a bad day and they've got a voice, which I think most people do now with social media, you're at their mercy.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, too, we've seen that you're at the mercy not just of whoever the complainer is, but anybody that wants to jump on their bandwagon. Mm-hmm. Because so many of the people that were doing the talking, in your case, Barbie, and I think we can say it in every case that we've each had, they don't know you. They don't know your heart. They don't know what that sentence that you said means to you. Mm-hmm. They're interpreting it through their hurt and through their bias and through that kind of thing. So it does make it an interesting situation to deal with when you stop and think, this is hurting me, but what is up with the person who started this? Yeah. Why would they hurt so badly that it's important to them to do this damage?
Mm-hmm. Well, all good points. And this is not about me. This conversation's not about me, but I remember this so well. in that when you reached out to me and you're like, hey, I get together with Traci, and we just kind of form this bond where we talk about the things that we're going through in the media and the things going on behind the closed doors. Hey, you want to join in? And I remember that first luncheon so well. We met at Georgia Blue. Is that right? Yep, in Madison. Met there. And I tell you, I left. Of course, when I was there, I was broken. I think I cried. I don't think I ate anything. I cried through the whole.
Well, we cry a lot of times.
Y'all
when we
cried
get
with
together.
us. Yeah.
I cried because you only ordered broccoli.
Yes, that sounds exactly
I had a hamburger,
right.
and I was like, "What is going on?"
No, that is true. By the way, I should tell people that who may be listening to the replay, we are seeing all the comments that's coming across right now on Facebook, and we want to recognize that, and we appreciate all of your comments that you're saying. We see you and we acknowledge you. But yeah, I remember leaving that meeting with y'all, and I just felt so uplifted in my spirit, and I was like, wait, these are two people that I've known for a long time, but this is going to be deeper than just a, hey, you want to get together every now and then for lunch. And so the rest is history. We typically try to get together at least every week or every other week.
Yeah.
And so if y'all have seen us at any of the local eateries, the local establishments, come up and say hey, because you may hear some cackling in there.
Or some crying.
You may see some crying, which we have been known to do. And we had recently, I don't think you were with us this time, Traci. Something was going on. You couldn't join us, but Therese and I were at a local restaurant, and the wait staff came up to us and said, you know, your order has been, your receipt's been paid. And we were like, oh, okay. Well, and we asked who did that. And the wait staff said, I don't know.
Yeah, they weren't
know.
allowed to tell us.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to tell us. So we
Sweet.
really do appreciate that. But this has turned into such a really good sisterhood.
Yeah.
But I tell you what else it's turned into. It's turned into an accountability
Absolutely.
group too, because we can be real with each other.
Yep.
And we can have those conversations with each other when we say, you know what, this is how I feel, and this is what the devil on my shoulder is saying. And this is what the angel on my shoulder is saying. And we talked through that. And what we also surmised was, why doesn't everybody have this? Why doesn't everybody have one or two friends that they can get together with and that they can be real with and be encouraged by? Because we have all become so addicted to this right here.
Yep.
And this is about as far as our relationships are getting us, is on our phone texting instead of actually, let's get together and let's talk through it and let's hear each other's emotions and that type of thing. And so that really brings me up to, you know, obviously having public jobs, public careers like we all have. How do you deal with those people, and you know who you are, who are having a bad day and they feel the need to blah their bad day on you? I know for many years, and even still to this day, I get criticism for my hair or my teeth. People say I've got really big teeth and really big eyes. Or my weight. I get that quite a bit too, my weight. Or things that I say, which I am very country. Y'all know that. But we all get these comments from time to time. And since everybody is now an empowered keyboard warrior,
Right.
you know, the internet has been great in many respects, but at the same time, it has opened up this whole snake pit of people who feel empowered to share their opinion with you about you. Give me some examples of what y'all have had happen with you. What have people sent you? What have people said to you?
Well, I have a funny one, and this is like by far not the most damaging or anything, but to me it's the most memorable because back in 2015, 16, 17, I was covering the Jessica Chambers murder case for the Clarion Ledger, and I got a message in my inbox that basically just said, "You're the ugliest woman and the worst reporter I've ever seen in my life."
Great.
So, of course, I screenshot it, and I think I put it on Facebook, just like, "Hey, guys, apparently today's my bad day," you know? And everybody, like, went and looked this guy up and was like, "You should see his girlfriend," and all this kind of, anyway. So my people, like, rallied for me, right?
Yeah.
But literally, I think it was, 5 or 6 or 7 years later when we're actually at the murder trial, the second murder trial for the guy accused of killing Jessica Chambers. The same guy writes me almost exactly the same message. You know, "You're the ugliest woman and the worst reporter I've ever seen in my life." And, you know, it was just like, I just thought, you know, you have carried this torch for that long, man. Like, that long. Like, you're still thinking about me after all these years. You know?
Y'all listen here.
Yeah.
You just want to say, what do we say in the South? Oh, bless his heart.
Bless your heart.
Bless his heart. That he is having such a crummy day, that he has sat on this for another few days, week, before he comes back and tells you that again. Oh, years.
Years.
Oh,
Yeah. And the thing that I
Mylanta.
feel bad about, honestly, is like it kind of turned into, you know, you look through somebody's Facebook page and, you know, the masses make fun of them on your behalf. And I feel bad for his girlfriend. She didn't ask for any of that. She was not one of the offenders in this situation.
oh my word. So you basically turned the tables on him because you did a screenshot of it and you put it out there for everybody to see. So other
Yes.
people kind of came to your rescue.
Yeah, and part of it I learned a long time ago, and I worked for a guy when I was in my teens who was a newspaper editor, and basically he's like, you just always have to be honest about the things that are going on, so that way nobody can ever say that you hid anything. And he said, even if it's bad, say what they say that's bad about you. You know, allow that to exist, because they put it into the, you know, at the time he didn't say they put it in the air, but, you know, his point was they started it. Allow the truth to carry you. And in that case, it was just like, okay, guys, because to me, I make fun of myself. That's what I do. So it was funny, like, hey, guys, apparently I'm really bad.
Yeah.
Like, this is bad all the way around. I'm not a good reporter. I'm not a pretty person. There it is, you know.
Stop.
So it was just, you know, but one thing I learned is that, like, for some reason, we can become that important to people that just because we happen to be public faces, you know, somebody out there may or may not be like, I hate her. But on the other hand, there are people out there who are like, I love her. And there's a lot more of that than there are the criticism. So that's kind of how I try to deal with it when things start to, you know, turn into a feeding frenzy on social media, especially. That's when I'm just like, you know what, though? I have a whole lot of people that support me. And that's where I need to put my focus.
But it is those negative or mean criticisms that you get that you remember. Right? Because you could have 10 more positive ones, but that mean
Yes.
one,
Yes.
that one lingers on.
Yep.
And I know that you've gotten it too, Tracy.
Yeah, I have it, not just on social media. We have a text line in the studio.
Okay.
So people can text in, and there's literally somebody saved in the text line that says, guy who hates Tracy. Because every time he texts in, he's like, you're so stupid. Everything you say is stupid. You're ugly and stupid. And I'm just like, dude, do you not have a job? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
You know? But we'll get a random text overnight from a guy who's like, I hate y'all. F yourself. And I'm like, what is happening to your life at 1:40 a.m. that you feel the need to text a radio station?
Yeah.
Well, and I want him to listen to this podcast and to hear your imitation of him, because that will
spot
forever
on.
be that guy's voice.
I'm spot on, 100% spot on. They talk like that. Right. So, yeah, but, you know, and sometimes, and we'd kind of mentioned this a little bit, sometimes it's so hard not to clap back, because if I'm having a moment,
You will.
let me tell you something. It's good that grace exists, because I'm mean, you know, and I will go after you in a heartbeat, but I've been saved, so the Holy Spirit stops me a lot of times. But I will go back, and I always feel bad when I do. I always feel bad, and then I'm like, oh, because my co-host Nate, I will tell him, I'm like, I shouldn't have said anything, now I feel bad. And then I end up having to apologize to the guy that told me that I was awful, you know, because of whatever reason, so...
But there's typically not an apology on
Oh,
the other person's side.
No.
Yeah.
I heard something that was so smart one time, though. Somebody said, if somebody insults you, act like you didn't hear it and ask them to repeat it.
Make them say it
Yeah,
again.
say, I'm sorry, what did you say? Because chances are they won't. And, of course, that's face-to-face. Online, they'll just put it in all caps. I said, you know, you were whatever. But you're right, so right about us remembering the bad things. because I can get 90 good messages and it's the one that tells me that you're too fat, you're too ugly, you're too picky, you're too much of a prude, you're too old, that I'm going to remember. And obviously I do, because I can recite that back, you know.
Well, and we were talking earlier about how, Jesus clapped back.
Yeah.
He did. He clapped back. Now, he's Jesus, so let's get that out there. But many times when he clapped back with the word of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he clapped back in truth.
Yeah.
Oh, Traci,
I know.
you're having trouble with
I'm
this
having
one.
trouble with it. I told Barbie before, he flipped a table and it was righteous anger. I flip it and I'm Teresa Giudice off the Real Housewives of New Jersey, because I'm like, what did you say?
Yeah.
And I'm flipping it and going after him, where the Lord has a lot better control over his emotions than Traci Lee does. So,
Well, and it is so interesting that because people do feel the comfortable, they just feel comfortable in saying these things to you online or through an email or through DMs, direct messages, and you want to say, would you go up to your local bank teller window and say those things to your local bank teller that you are saying from a keyboard to me or to anyone else? And we know the answer to that.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's going to be no, they wouldn't. But keyboard and the internet has made everybody feel like that they've got something to say, and by golly, you need to hear what I've got to say. And the truth is, no, we don't.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to deviate just a second. When you said that, I thought of something. We would never go up to a teller at a bank and say that, but we would definitely say it to ourselves about ourselves.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
I talk to myself. I wouldn't talk to another living thing the way I talk to myself. And somebody said one time, you need to talk to yourself the way you talk to your dog. Like, what a sweet girl. Aren't you the sweetest girl? Stop licking your butt. Stop doing this, Okay, you probably want to leave that part out. But you got to get the idea of that is our words they hold so much power. There's so much power of life and death in the tongue.
Well, and I think that part of that, when you're talking about the things that we say to ourselves, I think when those haters say those things, because like if you say something stupid to me, like, I bet you can't run fast, I'm going to be like, no, I can't. Like, that's not an insult. Like, okay, but when you say something like, you're really starting to age, or clearly this is why you're single, then all of a sudden everything in me is like, oh no. And there is a voice of agreement to the voice in my head that tells me I'm not okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I think that's why it impacts us. Because when you tell me, hey, you're really good at journalism, cool, I know. And pardon me, there's probably going to be somebody who's like, look at her, whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is, there are those things that we hear, we know it's fine, but it's the fears that we have that are backed up by some of those critics.
Yeah.
Or when they say something completely wrong and we're afraid that people are actually going to, I think we've all at some point been called a racist against white people, a racist against black people. We've been called conservative. We've been called liberal. It's like across the board. When you're in these positions, somebody who doesn't believe exactly the same thing you do is going to call you whatever you would be if you disagreed with them 100%. And to me, that used to really get under my skin because you don't know me,
Right.
but then that's something I kind of deal with now because you're going to say what you're going to say.
Yeah.
So true. I actually got a message not too long ago. Several of you who follow me on Facebook know that a couple of weeks ago, I was actually here in Daniel's Lion's Den doing a little test. It probably lasted for a total of 10 minutes, but I did a Facebook Live and just kind of showing you around this room that we're in right now. And everybody was so kind. Everybody was so supportive. I was literally talking about nothing. Nothing. And there was a lady who commented under the post of this Facebook Live. And it kind of took me aback. I'm going to read it to y'all. And her name is Lina Husk. But Lina said, Daniel, you think this is funny? No, I mean, let's speak truth. Let's speak truth. She said, I saw you once and you were pretty rude to me. I haven't forgotten that. I suppose you could have been having a bad day. I tried talking to you several times when you worked on TV, but you ignored me every time and talked with everyone else around me. I haven't forgotten all those times either. I've been praying for you to get off the high horse and realize that it is not all about you. Shortly after, you were fired. I see it didn't change you any because you were on here begging for compliments. LOL.
That lady has issues of her own that have nothing to do with you.
Well, I read this, and obviously I was like, my mind, the sensitive, tender part of me was like, oh my gosh, do I know who this person is? Have I ever been out in public and somebody was standing around wanting to talk to me and I did not acknowledge them? So immediately it's like the adversary started blaming me.
Right.
The adversary on my shoulder was blaming me, saying, Barbie, what did you not do right? You just totally dissed this lady. And she makes it like, she says that I was pretty rude and she hasn't forgotten it. So there is a lack of grace and forgiveness there. She does mention that maybe I would have been having a bad day, and maybe I was, I don't know. But just to know that this person was obviously offended that I did not recognize her, that she was, wanting to speak to me, it broke me. It broke my heart.
Well, and I just want to point out, as your friend, but also as the objective voice of objectivity that I've built my career on, she said that you're on Facebook begging for attention or whatever she said.
Yes.
That's what her message is. It's a cry for attention. And at some point, she has been deeply insulted because in her perspective, she felt like the Barbie Bassett didn't stop and recognize her. And on the one hand, maybe you missed somebody that was standing there or whatever, but I think Traci and I can both say, like, I've never seen you blow anybody off, even when you really, really wanted to or should have. And that's one reason that we are friends, because I am really bad. I'm a big introvert. I'd rather not have to talk to people. But I watch you every time we go anywhere, and people walk up and they're like, oh my gosh, you're Barbie Bassett. And they start telling you their whole life story.
But I see them do the same thing with y'all, too.
I mean, yeah.
But
But
this is true.
But we're talking about you right now.
Okay.
Yes. But so that, to me, when I see that, I have great compassion for that lady. We've all been at places in our lives where we feel like I must not have been important enough for you.
Yeah.
But I think let's just leave it at that. I have great compassion for her. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that's why sometimes being in this industry, and I don't think it's necessarily this industry only, this happens to y'all too, where people get offended for whatever reason, or they feel like that their feelings are being dismissed. I really wish that she would have personally reached out to me instead of posting it, obviously, on my public Facebook page. But hey, I'm not that hard to find. Send me a private message. Or if I was ignoring her or I didn't see her, call my name, Barbie, something like that, because the tender side of your heart's want to say, oh my gosh, I never want anybody to feel dismissed or, thrown away. So that's kind of what we're talking about here today, is how do you deal with people who criticize you or who are offended by who you are,
your existence,
or what you have said. We've got a comment just that's scrolling through on our Facebook page that I can see since we're doing this live. And the comment is, this person made a comment at someone's funeral, and now family members had their feelings hurt about it and took offense to it, and they won't speak to them anymore. And I had that situation this weekend with one of my kids where I just said something, and I threw that comment as a pebble, but for whatever reason that day it landed as a boulder on one of my kids. And my child immediately called my husband and said, Mom said blah, 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 blah. And then my husband calls me and says, what did you say? And so when my child got back home, I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. Instead of going to Daddy and telling Daddy that I said something that hurt your feelings, come to me and tell me those things. That way we can talk through them and we can make sure that intent was to be kind and was truthful instead of, I'm out here to offend the masses today. And that's what I want to encourage everybody listening to this podcast today is when you feel offended, when you feel like, oh, I need to throw in my 2 cents, I need to throw in my criticism of this, is just to, go to that person personally and say, what you said, you might not have meant this, but this is how it came out. And it really reminded me of the fruits of the Spirit. Okay, so there's a little song that we taught our kids when they were young, and I'm not going to sing it for everybody here, but it helped them to remember the fruits of the Spirit in order, although that doesn't really matter. But the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So the first fruit of the Spirit is
Love.
Mm-hmm. So you would think that with it being love, that love is really important to the Lord. It's very important to God that we love. But the last fruit of the Spirit,
Self-control.
Self-control.
I think those bookends are really important.
Oh, my word. And so I've got my phone out here, and I was looking that 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8, talks about that love does not boast, it does not envy, it doesn't honor, it doesn't dishonor others, and that it keeps no record of wrongs. How
That's a
many
grudge,
times? There's your grudge right there. Or I saw them out at the Kroger, and I spoke to them. They didn't even look my way.
Well, I want to add, too, that so when you talk about offense, the word for offense in the ancient, I think Hebrew or Greek, is, well, actually, I Googled it, so let's look it up. Temptations that cause people to sin, scandalon. That's where the word scandal comes from and everything else. But it is also the word for trap. And basically, when you take that offense, when you decide, I'm going to drink this poison, because I can set a cup of poison in front of you, and you can say, I choose not to drink that poison, and you can go on about your life and live perfectly happily. But when you jump in there and you start to be offended and you drink that poison, that's why those words are so closely tied together, because you are trapping yourself in, now I'm offended, I'm trapped in this. It's a sin. And the thing is, I'm not saying that if you don't get offended, that doesn't mean you won't any day. Like we all struggle with that. But the fact that this society is so geared towards, I'm offended, it's about me and my feelings.
Yeah.
I will destroy you over my feelings.
Yes.
That's the trap that it's talking about. And I think the devil loves to see that. And I think that he's got his little messengers all over the place trying to stir that up. And that, honestly, is going to be the downfall. I'm not going to get preachy, but that's going to be the downfall of America.
Yeah.
Is that we are so excited about being offended that we will put our whole everything on just absolutely obliterating the thing we're offended by. And that's why love is so important. And that's why, honestly, I think that when Jesus tells us the most important commandment is to love God and love your neighbor, that he doesn't say anything about and be mad and condemn and demand and whatever. And that's the difference sometimes in watching those things.
Yeah, and I was also looking at John 13, 34 through 35. It says, love one another, just as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know you are my disciples if you love one another. So if you are not loving those who are, let's just go ahead and say, difficult to love, we are not showing that we are one of his. Y'all, that's heavy.
Yeah.
You want to talk about being convicted.
Well, 1 John 4:8 is, he who does not love does not know God, for God is love, or something along those lines. I'm remembering the song we learned in Vacation Bible School.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Proverbs 19:11, good sense makes one slow to anger, and in his glory to overlook an offense. So really, that scripture is just talking about overlooking offenses as a virtue and a sign of wisdom.
And we live also in a society that says, you can forgive, but don't forget.
Yeah.
Well, what that means is just don't forgive. I mean, when you really
Yeah.
boil it down. So to me, the whole thing is when Jesus says 70 times 7, he's not just saying, okay, count them up. He's saying that's infinite. That is, 490 times, but that was an exaggeration. That was just to show like there should be no amount of times that you forgive. And the world calls you weak for that. And they try to pretend like there's something wrong with you because you take that stand that, no, I understand that we are all fallen in this world and that maybe you're attacking me on Facebook and I'm going to forgive you for that. But turn around and I am probably doing something to somebody else that's hurting them as deeply. And I may or may not know it. And I'd like for them to forgive me. And we would all like for God to forgive us.
Absolutely.
So to me, that's the whole thing. It's like 70 times 7, forever I forgive you. And that is the very hard thing to back up.
Proverbs 10:12 says, love covers all offenses. So it makes you think further that when we find ourselves being offended of something, and there are times when something is said or I see something on TV or I see something on social media and I think, you know what, that just kind of gets, what we say in the South, gets in my crawl.
Yeah.
It makes me have to reflect on why. Why is that bothering me? Am I close enough to the Lord to where that doesn't bother me? And if it is bothering me, I got something to work on.
Sure.
I got something to work on if I'm offended by something that anybody says or that I see, is written. So it makes me reflect back on my own self and say, okay, Holy Spirit, why am I offended about this? Why does this bother me?
I think another important thing to remember is when we say love covers all sins, we need to remember that we don't have to summon that love. God has already given that love. That love already was sent to the cross. That covers the sin. It's simply ours to decide to just move on with our life past that. Because sometimes there are times I have to pray that God would give me the capacity to care about somebody or to understand their plight or whatever. But when you stop and say, that wealth of love is already there, please help me draw from it.
Yeah.
Because I can't churn it up myself.
Okay, Tracy, I see the wheels spinning here.
She's thinking.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I think a lot of times unforgiveness is a protection. It's a defense mechanism because people are so hurt. And I think of the times where I've held on to it because it was a safe space for me. Because if I don't forgive you and I can maintain this level of hurt and offense towards you, that creates distance between you and me. And if you can't get close to me, you can't hurt me. And I shut that part of myself off. I'm a cutter outer.
Yeah.
If you hurt me or you do something, I can be done with you really quick. And realizing that is not the nature of who God is and who he is in me. And how I don't even realize how much time and energy that I'm spending myself trying to hold on to that offense.
Yeah.
Until I let it go. And then I'm like, my gosh, I didn't even realize I was exhausted.
Yeah.
From doing that, from holding on to that. And forgiveness is so much easier when it's not you giving it, but you channeling it through the one who gives it freely. And I really feel like it has a lot to do with fear because at the end of the day, let's be honest, we're terrified.
Oh, all the time.
We are scared to death
Sure.
that we're going to be hurt, that we're going to be left alone, that what is going to happen to our country, what is going to happen to our children, what is going to happen. And for those of us that have faith, we can hold on to the word of God. And that is a true and steady anchor. In real life, it's hard to see the anchor hold in the storm because you can't feel anything but the wind beating against your face. And it is hard to catch your breath when you're standing in a hurricane.
Oof.
And I think sometimes we react out of that, not because we're bad people or we really want to hurt you, but because we're scared and we're hurt. And I don't want you to touch me there anymore because that hurts.
Yeah.
Stop poking that place. And it seems like that's always the place. It's always the place. Like for me, it's my weight. I mean, I can't hide it. It doesn't matter how much black you wear, okay, that people are going to know, but it's always the thing. And I will go ahead and just assume that you're going to feel a way about me before you tell me. So I cannot give you that part of me. I don't want you to hurt it, so I'll hurt myself, and do that. So I won't be offended because of that, because I'm holding on to that hurt. If that makes any sense whatsoever,
it does.
but that's just trying to do faith in real life. And I know it's really easy, and the scripture is so beautiful and so powerful, and it's so easy to remember it when you're in church and you're under the fluorescent lights at youth group. You can be pure, but when you're in the back seat of the car, it takes on a completely different, thing because of where you are, and trying to dig that truth down. And the forgiveness that you have to give yourself is the same forgiveness that you have to give others. Okay, I was too hard on myself. I did this. I shouldn't have done that. I have to forgive myself as much as I'm telling myself that I need to forgive you for it. And accept that part of the Holy Spirit and what Jesus did for us on the cross, and then grow in that. And in that imperfection, we start to show his perfection, because we can't.
Yeah.
We're broken. I can't do it. I'm not a good person. I'm not. But through him, I'm redeemed. Through him. If I succeed, if I fail, it is all on him. Everything. You can't take credit one way or the other. If things work out in my benefit, it's because God made the way. If things completely blow up, okay, what do we got next? I can't take the good and I can't take the bad, and you can't take the offense and you can't take the praise. You have to lay it at his feet every day and just be willing to go do what he has for you and the way he's laid it out.
So true. And I think it all goes back to that, the fruit of the Spirit. Fruit grows on a tree. And you can have trees, and there are a lot of people out there who are trees, but is the fruit there?
Yeah.
And it's not like the Bible says the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, and peace.
Right.
Y'all, it's 9 of them.
Yeah.
And you got to have all 9. And some days I think, people have all 9, and then some days we're kind of shy. We're kind of shy. We're shy a few. And so when I have those own issues, when my feelings get hurt over something, or somebody sends me a message or posts something that it just, it hits that way, it makes me have to reflect on my own fruit and say, what am I missing here? Because there are days that I just want to type back what I think about your message. And I'm like, ooh, the fruit of the Spirit of self-control is not growing today.
Yeah.
So let me back this up.
I'm going to tell you, there have been times, honestly, that God has said, go to bed.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I will tell you, he's like, you get in that bed and don't you say another word.
God's saying, y'all listen here.
Right. You're tired.
Traci, listen here.
You are misbehaving. Get in the bed. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I think this has been a great conversation to have today, because, again, just because we are and coming back to the media, yes, we deal with this probably a little bit more than most people would, but it doesn't mean that you are immune from it either, whether you're getting it from people posting it on your own social media, or your friends or your family. Sometimes family are the biggest ones to be offended. Yeah. So go back to those people who you discover that maybe you hurt their feelings. And that's what I did with my child, is I went to them and said, hey, I understand that what I said hurt your feelings. Let's have a discussion and let's talk about intent there. And of course, my child did admit, there was a lot that was going on with them that day. And then my comment just hit the wrong way. And they knew that I wasn't trying to be ugly or mean, but it just hit them the wrong way. And have those discussions. I think that what we have done as a society is we have told each other for the last 25, 30 years, there's 2 things you don't discuss with family at the dinner table. Class, do y'all remember what it is?
Politics and religion.
And you know what? That is why our country is disintegrating today.
Yeah.
Because we stopped having conversations with people who think differently, have a different bend. Maybe they see something differently or they believe differently. Instead of having these conversations on, well, Therese, tell me why that hurt your feelings. And me actually hearing the background there. or Traci, tell me why you believe this, and giving you that opportunity. Now, at the end of the day, I may not agree with either one of you, but we still get to leave being friends, and we still get to leave being civil, and we also still get to leave with the chance of, you know what, Therese said something. I'm really thinking through that. Or Traci made that comment. I'm going to go look that up myself. And this is where you get to think for yourself. You're not told what to think, but you get to think for yourself. I think we've really done our society, our culture, a big disservice by not having those conversations. Because at the end of the day, I remember when we were kids, you had a fight on the playground. And it was like, when you went back to class, everybody was good.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Now it's you have a fight on the playground and we're going to get you fired.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're going to get you canceled.
Right.
We're going to email your boss.
And years ago when I lived in Brookhaven, I was going to a friend of mine's house to watch an Ole Miss game. And I had stopped by the place where he worked just for some other stuff and said something like, I'm going to his house to watch the game. And one of the guys was like, he's a Democrat, though. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, and it was him and his wife and his kids. Like,
Yeah.
So there shouldn't have been anything scandalous about it. We all went to Ole Miss. And the guy said, you would go into a Democrat's house? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, that's as bad as being a Democrat yourself. And he was as sincere as he could be. And my thought was, how many beautiful people in this world are we ruling out because of political parties, because of, even sometimes just denominational stuff,
Yes.
definitely religious things. One of the reasons God made us all different is because we can all grow so much from knowing each other. And if you say something that offends me, or if you say something that I don't understand, it is absolutely okay for me to come be like, what did you mean by that? Because
Absolutely.
9 times out of 10, when I ask you, what did you mean by that? You either didn't mean what my pain made me
Yes.
think you meant, or you meant it and you have a chance to explain yourself and maybe we can get on the same page. Or you have the chance to say, gosh, I said that and I'm sorry. And there's, in that conversation that we don't have, there is healing.
That's it. Well, final thoughts, Sister Traci.
Well, I think one of the most beautiful things I'm a part of, this is going to show you a lot about me. I'm part of a multi-poo page on Facebook.
Yes.
And it is the most pure place on the internet because there are people from all over the world. And the only thing we have in common is our dog. That's it. And we love each other and we support each other. I don't care if it's the Chinese New Year or there's something going on in Canada or Mexico or Nevada. I know those people. Like I feel, and I'm invested in their lives because they love their dog as much as I love my dog. Shouldn't we be doing that in the church? Like, honestly, shouldn't we be doing that with faith people? Because there is nothing any of those women would say or do that would make me just be like, oh, you are terrible, because they love their dog like I love my dog. It's kind of like when you're driving down 55 and somebody cuts you off and you're like, I'd be mad, but you got an Ole Miss tag. It's like the thing that makes us the same, and that it is really the most beautiful place because none of us are alike. None of us. But I feel like I know this little lyric or this little LaRue and these little dogs and their parents, and we have that thing in common. And it just reminds me we're all human and we're all coming from this place. It humanizes them to me.
Yeah.
And I wish that we would do that more in the church. I worked in Christian media for a long time. Y'all mean people. They are mean people. And country radio, they're so much nicer than they are in that is wrong.
Yeah.
That is wrong. Not that country folks ain't nice, but you should not be that hateful if you are listening to Jesus music. You just should not.
Well, that
But
goes back
people
to the
are.
thing where the church crowd doesn't tip.
Yeah,
Like
I've heard
people
that.
who have waited at restaurants have said that the church crowd is the worst tipping group. And guys, aren't we supposed to be generous? I mean, isn't it like you can't outgive God?
Yeah.
So why are we skimping on our waitress?
So true. Well, y'all listen here. My challenge to each one of us, all three of us here in this room, as well as those who are listening to this podcast or watching us online, is to always be kinder than we feel.
Yep.
And when we are offended or when we feel the need to criticize, even though we may do it behind a veil of, I would want somebody to tell me, so I'm telling you, because y'all know y'all been there.
Or we need to pray for them because.
Yes.
Or I'm not rude, I'm just honest.
Yes. Oh my goodness, these are so good.
Yeah.
But to reflect on our own tree. Do we have those 9 fruits of the Spirit working on all cylinders on that day at that time? And if we don't, if we're shy of one of those fruits of the Spirit, then maybe that's what we work on personally that day. And, you know, we just pray and say, God, help me work on this fruit of the Spirit called peace.
Because I probably shouldn't pray. Remember in the Old Testament when he opened the earth and swallowed up
Yeah,
a
we
bunch
don't
of people? I've prayed
we
that
don't want to pray
before.
that.
I have prayed it before. I'm like, God, if you just open this part up and just suck them down, and we'd be okay. See, this is the wrong spirit in which to approach the throne.
Well, and
Well,
I
I
can say,
did say that this was going to be unfiltered, so thank you for that,
Yeah.
Tracy.
And the thing is, Tracy, while maybe you're not supposed to pray that, remember that God did send bears to eat somebody
That
in
is
the
true.
Old Testament.
Because
so.
we're talking New Testament love, Therese. We got to move on. I know, but I feel the same way. And I'm always like, well, take the high road, and that way you can kick rocks off on the people below. Again, not the right attitude.
This is hilarious. Y'all should see these comments that are coming in. They're pretty funny. No, I love each and every one of you. I mean, it's so much fun for us to get together. And we hope that everybody listening to this podcast, that y'all have gleaned just a little bit of something today and just a little bit of encouragement.
Yeah.
And we will see y'all next time on Y'all Listen Here.
It's a brand new day.